Arthur, this is your crew. These are your elite assassins, huh? This is the best thing you do. Before we open this review of chapter 45 of Horns of the Apocalypse, please do me a favor, leave your own notes on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come with the channel. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got Pouncer here, and here we are to read chapter 45 of Horns of the Apocalypse, which is known as the Chivalry Code. And, I'm just disappointed. I'm not mad. I'm literally just disappointed. I know this isn't the first crew of holy knights or supposedly powerful people our crew has run into and dealt with, right? I know that's a fact. But these guys were hyped. Top tier assassin, next level. If you have to 1v1 them, you're literally just done, son. We had to split them up. We couldn't have the jump on jump scenario. Even Elgin was casually bodying the whole crew at once. I'm sorry. Let's just hop into the chapter. I'm still just blown away by what happens in this chapter. But we open up. We get to see Percival's flexing, right? He's yo, it's me. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. He was doing with Elgin. Yo, I'm that guy. I'm the Fortnite of the Apocalypse. You're here for me. I'm that dude. So, kill me. Just don't kill any of my friends. And honestly, I respect Percival for that. He still cares about everyone else so much that he's outright willing to sacrifice himself. And I'll at least give the Holy Knights credit. As Homeboy said last chapter, he's yo, you're not that guy, pal. You're simply not that guy. I'm taking all of your heads. And on top of that, it seems like the girl's kind of into that type. And notably, I don't know how old she is, but it's anime. I can't say anyone is an adult in anime. I have to turn the other way. Even if she is in Percival's age range, you're trying to kill him. So that's kind of weird. But still, I am glad that big dude is yo, not gonna lie to you, dog. While I do respect your gallant nature, your chivalric code, if you will, I am taking all your friends' heads. Just because, once again, you may be that guy, but I am also that guy. And here's the thing, right? I sort of don't get it. Why would you kill them? I mean, they're witnesses, I suppose, but who are they gonna tell? Is Camelot even in a discoverable area right now? At least when Sin showed us the map, it was ruins. I feel like no one even knows that Camelot is a properly operating thing as of the moment. They still probably think it's destroyed. So other than for the sadism, why get rid of all? I guess it's because they've been threats, right? They've been an affront to Arthur so far. They've bested some of his knights, resulted in the death of some of them, and obviously are just overall an annoyance. And obviously you have Nothing as the strongest character in the entire, and I can't even say that Pelgard existed, but they're obviously threats, so you got to get rid of them, I suppose. And notably, once again, and I do really like Anne, because she straight up steps up. She pushes Percival, who's sweating and breathing heavy. I just realized he's growling. He literally has Gurr on the panel. But Anne is yo, chill out. You didn't drag us into this. We're here because we want to be. If we didn't want to be here, we wouldn't have followed you. But this is our choices, our battle, and we'll do what we want. And I think that's great. I'm glad that Anne is willing to take on the responsibility of her choice. Someone like Donnie, he may occasionally flake on you. As good as he's become, he's not above your good old fashioned, well, it's my time to leave, folks, and then he'd vanish. That's not out of his repertoire yet. Meanwhile, Anne, who's been with the group much shorter, Donnie really is the original cast member outside of Sin. So obviously, I say Donnie's even a priest. I think Percival met Donnie before he met Sin. So no, he met Sin first. He did meet Sin first. But regardless, Anne, despite being the most recent addition to the group outside of Sylvan, is willing to put her life on the line against these people, even though she knows they're all assassins, just because it's something she chose to do. It's her responsibility as one of Percival's allies and friends, because she made that choice. She chose that path. I think that's great. And then, like, once again, I gotta like you. This series will constantly remind you, I think, in a good subtle way, that our main cast of characters are still kids, right? They're 16. I know, age of adulthood in ancient England, I do believe, but they're still pretty naive because while she did have this great moment of declaring, like, "Yo, we will take responsibility for our actions, and it's not your fault. You didn't drag us into anything." She goes on to saying, "But doesn't a polite knight state their name first?" And like. I don't even blame the girl for being like, a polite knight. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? Like, for some reason, I feel like it still hasn't clicked yet without maybe like, I feel like Donnie and Nasian's, maybe not. Nah, Donnie still does dumb stuff sometimes. So I feel like maybe Nasian's only Ensign are like the only two characters that realize that their little idealistic world isn't a thing. And like, I would give Anne a pass, but she was there to witness Percival's own father essentially kill him. Like, she knows these people aren't like her conventional idea of knighthood, but she's still like pushing forward that front. Like, I feel like some of our cast just hasn't like woken up yet, and I'm wondering how long it's going to take. And to be fair, they just not like, that's the thing. The narrative, considering they've always succeeded, doesn't really have a reason to make them grow up. There hasn't necessarily been any real punishment for any mistakes they've made. When they made the mistake of running to the demon village, they found out it was Gother, and Gother saved them. When they encountered Ironside, Sin and his forest friends came out the clutch and ended up helping them while they helped themselves against Ironside and won. Talisker obviously wasn't a problem. Essentially, there's never been a case where anything that they've done in their idealistic ways has had like an actual repercussion on them. So it makes sense that they're still like idealistic, but every time I see it, it's just like, these people are trying to kill you. Stop it. Like, come on now, you're smarter than this. Or at least you should be. But then we get to see, even if they won't state their names, someone else will. Bergie the Bewitcher and Doranok the Invincible, of both of the Dark Talismans. And I don't know. Like, is that a comic book reference? No, I'm kidding. But Doranok, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right. Maybe Doranek or Doranok. I don't know. Doranok is just a cool name to me for some reason. And Bergie, that doesn't sound like a real, like, does that sound like a real name to anyone else? Like, Fittich, Elgin, Doranok, like, That really sounds like door knock, like knock on a door. He even took the cool value out of that name. But no, I can't take Bergie seriously. Bergie, you need to get a new name. I hate to say it. But we see the person who doxed them essentially is Sin. And he straight up says, yo, they won't be all casual like Elgin was. And Bergie asked the pretty essential question of like, hey, why do you know our names? Because honestly, only a select few in Camelot would even be aware of our execution squad. And we don't get an answer. Anne just instantly takes over the spotlight again. And unlike Anne, I'm going to pause and consider. So we had, y'all, like, that's the thing. I love how we're just constantly gestating on who Sin is, and like theories are evolving, reverting. Like things are always steaming up and stirring in the comment section pot. So the recent consensus, or like one of the bigger theories I've been seeing recently in the comments, is the idea that Lancelot, when being taken by the Lady of the Lake, came out, went to Camelot, trained under Arthur, went in his ranks and possibly betrayed, and that's why he's Sin now. Or at least he's gone off to betray when he found out the whole Four Knights prophecy. He knows he's one of the Four Knights, ran off, and that's why he knows all this information. That is pretty cool. And even if Lancelot doesn't know all that, like say Lancelot popped out Lady of the Lake as Sin, whatever, and doesn't have all that inherent information with that theory specifically, the fact that he may have worked under Arthur and betrayed him, because in Arthurian mythology, I'm pretty sure Lancelot does work under Arthur. That's how he gets the whole stealing Guinevere situation. But I think it's even possible that Gother just told Sin and just didn't tell the others. Because Gother, when he invades people, Gother doesn't have one set thing he does. So sure, he took over that one dude's body and put spears through everybody. That's one thing. But on top of that, it's entirely possible that Gother just read the minds read the mind of the dude he possessed. It was like, oh, okay, this is all your pertinent information. Here you go, Sin. Train them. You use the dark talismans as fodder to make the group stronger. Here's all the information. Stay safe, pal. And then sent off. Because we don't necessarily get to see Sin and Gowther interact that much, and I wouldn't be shocked if Gowther, did a little digging. Gowther's smart enough to not waste a resource like that, so I wouldn't be shocked. However, if Sin was just like a deep part of Arthur's army, like what's being implied here, and that's why he's one of the select few who would know about the dark talismans, that's pretty cool too. I wonder what led to this. Like, and if Lancelot was working directly under Sin, under the assumption that Sin equals Lancelot, what made him betray outside of maybe the prophecy and he knew? But then again, how would he escape? And why would he turn to questions? I don't know. It's just spicy. I like that. But back to Anne, since she had to hijack the plot. She's like, oh, okay. Once she heard their names, like after completely ignoring Bertie's question, she's like, oh, sounds like a worthy opponent indeed, a worthy foe. Let's begin. I am Galahad. I think I keep adding letters to her name. It's Anglehad, right? Like Anglehad. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's how you say it. I need to just go to Google. But regardless, she challenges them to a battle. And I love how it's Holy Night sooner or later. So like, I'm assuming she's gonna try to become a Holy Knight in Leonis under Meliodas, because she's still a Meliodas fanboy, even if it hasn't been brought up in a while. And notably, she tells Percival and Nosines to rest up, and while Percival's like, yo, wait, I want to throw hands too, Donnie's like, nah, just let her fight. And then apparently Anne expects Donnie to just come out and fight with her. And like, I know Donnie wasn't like carrying them all around in flight and not healing everybody and doing all that stuff. But to be fair, Donnie was like backpacking the whole fight against Elgin and using his levitation magic and striking Elgin and taking hits from Elgin. Like, he wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. He was also stressing his magic to a pretty high limit and suffering a lot. So, and it's kind of rude that you're making him do all this. But it seems like he is in pretty decent fighting shape. Like, while Percival is still sweating and breathing heavy and Nosines is still holding his arm, Donnie's just posted up all casual in his drip. So it makes sense. And notably, like, I don't... Like, Anne has this, like, big, I want to be independent, strong, holy knight woman. But at the same time, she's the same person that'll be like, or what? You want a woman to take on two guys like that by herself? Like, which is it? Like, are you supposed to be strong, independent female character, or are you... I mean, to be fair, you could be both. You can be a strong, independent female character with enough logical sense to know that you weren't taking on two top-tier assassins alone when you have a viable comrade with you. So I'll give her respect. She has common sense to a degree that she doesn't want to run the 2v1. And I don't know, like, something is oddly epic about the way these two duos walk up to each other. And it's so strange because, like, once again, they're oddly casual. I don't know. Like, while it makes sense for Bergie and Doranok to be pretty casual because, you know, trained Holy Knight assassins, and one might as well be as big as Ceranos, and the other one has a magic staff that controls all four of the elements. Like, they're pretty good to be set up confidently, but the way that Donnie is walking up, like, hey, you know what? I think I'll just take the smaller one. Like, they're walking up pretty darn casually, and I love, once again, immaturity, but it's funny immaturity. I'll give him that. Where, like, Bergie in the last panel called Anne a little snot, and while Doranok is like, whatever, they're still gonna die, Anne just instantly says, who are you calling a meddling snot? How dare you? And she instantly lunges in the battle with Bergie. And, like, I thought Sin said they wouldn't be as casual, but, like, are all the dark talismans just freaks? And I just didn't know. Like, is this what the deal is? Because Berkey goes on to say, I'm gonna savor your tormented wailing face as I ever so slowly finish you off. Heart emoji. Like, what? Like, Elgin was on that kind of energy too. I'm not gonna lie. He was on that, my boss is quick and easy, but I'm on that gourmet buffet. You know what I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. These guys are just freaks. And to be fair, it makes for dynamic characters in short bursts, but, like, man, is it just strange to see. But notably, we see that Donnie is indeed left with Tornok, who he actually manages to dodge. Like, once again, are these knights suppressing themselves? Or is this literally Arthur's best? Or maybe it's not his best, right? Because you can argue that his main knights, his main ensemble, like your Pelgars, your Ironsides, like your higher level ranking Holy Knights could be more dangerous, but this is an assassination squad. The fact that they can't take care of some 16-year-olds, even if they are slightly battle experiences, kind of embarrassing. Like the I could give the original Sins a pass in the previous series because they were just demons. Like every single one of them was an experienced warrior. Like them doing stuff like this, I wouldn't even bat an eye because they had the body of work, they had the history, they had the lore behind them. But for Dornoch to just miss Dottie, and she just, I mean, he splits the earth, which is cool, but obviously he's still fought her because like he split the earth after making contact with it with an axe. Meliodas split a mountain with air pressure from a twig. So these two are not the same. But then we get to see that even though Donnie is, a bit terrified because obviously this man Dornoch split the earth in front of him. Then again, Donnie, you literally witnessed Percival bury a mountain range forever ago. Like, splitting the earth shouldn't be that impressive to any of you. Like, even Percival's like, look at that power. And I mean, to be fair, it was fueled by Talisker. But Percival, I feel like if you swung your blade hard enough, you could do that too. Like, y'all are a little bit too easily impressed. And then Donnie, coming out the clutch, is like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to get hit by that. And he raises up Dornoch into the air, which is, once again, pretty impressive. Dornoch is a big dude, so for him to just be able to lift that, pretty darn impressive. And then, like, I'm not, like, Dornoch just goes, ooh, and blasts off Donnie. Like, Donnie's sent flying back, which obviously takes him out of his stance, and thusly, Dornoch falls back to the ground. And then Dornoch reveals that impact is his magic. And I love Pelgard, my boy. I love how he just traumatized Donnie. Like, he's straight up like, oh no, this is just like when Pelgard beat me up. Because, to be fair, Pelgard did do the exact same thing. Like, he got levitated into the air, and it was just like, well, time for big boy flexing. But to be fair, notably, impact is Dornoch's entire magic, and it works in about a 50-foot radius, according to Sin. Meanwhile, Pelgard just flexed his own innate magic, and it blew back people. So it's likely that Pelgard does have a better innate magic than Impact itself. And honestly, Impact, I mean, it's still a cool ability. And once again, depending on, in the right hands, Impact can be useful. Like, say you're just in the middle of a fight, but you need breathing room. You can just be like swapping hands with somebody, flicker on Impact, and suddenly they're getting sent flying back. So it's a pretty useful strat, I'm not gonna lie. But comparison to like reverting your opponent's age every minute, I don't know, weakening your opponent by just covering them in some rain, stuff like that, like, it's not the most crazy thing we see. Even Blaze is arguably a better ability because you can obviously just mimic Impact's effects with Blaze. So I don't know. Impact is cool and all, but it's not the most heat thing we've seen so far from the entire Night Squad. Heck, I'd even say you probably want Ironsides matching more. So Impact, you're looking kind of fodder. But then we get to see that Sin is like, I mean, he's not a power scaler, but he's calcing right now because he's like, okay, so Impact works on a 50-foot radius. Donnie, your floating magic only works on like a 25-foot radius. Let's see, what can we do here? And I love how Dornoch, like, he's not necessarily concerned with Donnie. He's just very, very worried of like, what is that fox? And it seems like Sin, he's just plotting. Like, I like Sin. He's a devious little dude, though. Like, I like him, but I don't trust him. I trust him as far as I can throw him. And probably, I don't know, unless Sin is super heavy, I could probably throw a mini fox pretty darn far. But still, we cut over to the battle between Bergie and Anne. And I got Kingdom Hearts 2 flashbacks, so I started reading this. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was put back wielding the Keyblade against Demix. When I saw Aqua Pillar and it's just this rising pillar of water, shivers down my spine. But in actuality, once again, like, unless, well, to be fair, Bergie admitted to wanting to torture Anne, but like, Anne's managing to dodge these elemental attacks pretty darn well. Like, she's sure she may be getting almost grazed, but she's still popping, weaving, and Bergie's managing to pull out a whole bunch of elements. Like, she goes from Water Pillar straight into Flame Sword, which has really good extended range. Like, Bergie doesn't just have like a close range blade, like it's like many times longer than the rapier that Anne wields, and it honestly has more body lengths than Anne herself. And notably, Anne is like, yo, just 1v1 me, bro, quit with the spamming. And I can understand that. I've played way too many matches of Dragon Ball FighterZ and Super Smash Bros. To not understand the pain of spamming. But regardless, you kind of gotta give her a reason, because, and unless you can like force her to stop spamming, why would she ever stop? She's obviously not built for close quarters combat. That's why she has the staff in the first place, and we see that for the first time. Like, Anne, despite her superior like sword wielding skills, doesn't actually manage to get hit by wind sickles. Like, this is the first time I think since like maybe Ironside, like, Anne's sheer technical proficiency has failed her in combat to the point where she took a little bit of damage. It's not much, and it's still very, very good considering she had to dodge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons all sent at her all at once from probably random directions. So pretty darn good. But it's actually kind of cool to see that Anne's skill does still need a little bit of brushing up, and she has room to grow, essentially. She's not going to be perfect against all the foes she fights, and I think that's great. And honestly, it leaves room for, other sword wielders, other mentors, other wielders of hunks of metal, if you know what I'm saying, soldiers, or, like, anyone who possibly uses a blade, Meliodas, anyway, like swordplay. I would just love if someone from the original series could teach Anne some more swordplay, especially someone who could possibly have the fastest blade in the demon realm, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit too much. It probably is way too much. I doubt Nakaba would ever do that. But notably, we see that Sin states what's kind of obvious, but I suppose you never know, the idea that Bergie has no magic outside of her staff. Like, she doesn't have any offensive magic on her own. She's kind of built like Anne. Like, Anne doesn't have any true offensive magic. She has to rely on her swordplay for offense. Meanwhile, Bergie doesn't have many offensive magics or any offensive magic. She has to rely on her staff. So this is actually like a pretty good matchup. I'm not gonna lie. And I love, like, once again, Nakaba is just doing a very good job at building the mystery, both in-verse now and out-of-verse, of who is Sin. Because obviously all this information seems a little bit too sussy. Like, why would this random fox know this? And I love how now, like, characters within the world itself are starting to question it. Because, like, to be fair, our main cast has no reason to question it because they have very little to no context of the original series outside of, like, Anne. But now characters who are having, like I said, getting doxxed, like, they're obviously wondering, who is the fox? Why does he know all this? How does he know all this? And while I think there are alternate solutions, it would be great if this was a Lancelot Trader thing or anything like that. Like, there's so many cool answers to what Sin is now, and I'm glad Nakaba is fully acknowledging and building on the mystery in the way that he's doing. And I love how Anne is like, okay, thank you for saying the obvious, Sin. Now, how do I get past the staff? Because, once again, when Bergie starts spamming water pillars, Anne is just forced to dodge. And, like, Sin is an interesting strategist, right? Because Donnie has been apparently still dodging Doranok, and he instantly gets told, like, hey, yo, lift him up one more time. And it seems like Doranok, obviously, he has the answer to this, but I guess he doesn't necessarily focus on his general surroundings. Like, this is honestly perfect positioning, because when Doranok uses impact to free himself from Donnie's whole thing, and fell within the 50-meter range and was pushed with such force, I guess, that, like, she just straight surpassed anything that Bergie could do to defend herself, and thusly Anne managed to just full-on gut check her and send the staff flying. And notably, before Bergie could, like, lunge and reach the staff, Anne I'm not sure. Like, it doesn't necessarily count as a blitz, but still, actually, no. Anne did move pretty fast because she was lying in the opposite direction, or at least on her knees in the opposite direction. And Bergie, who's still facing towards her staff, lunges, but she isn't fast enough. So Anne manages to get it and kick it away, and then proceed to get ready to engage in combat. And I love how Donnie even acknowledges, like, "Hey, yo, I was the bait. How you gonna do me like that, Sin?" And Sin doesn't even respond. He doesn't even care. Because now it's Anne versus Bergie 1-on-1. Blade versus bare hands. So, and to be fair, we've seen characters in Seven Deadly Sins go barehanded against characters with weapons. So it wouldn't be the first time we've seen a fist against Blade. But obviously, Bergie's not about that action, because she's like, huh, "You believe that's all it'll take? You're nothing to me." And bada bing, bada boom, a whole bunch of Bergies pop up out of nowhere using Mirage, her own native magic. And I think, so is that how she survived? Like, I initially thought her native magic would have had something to do with like regeneration or longevity or something like that. But it seems like she has deceiver magic, as Nasians calls it. So was the dude who supposedly stabbed her through with the spear, did he just get pro played like an instant? Is that what happened? Did she just pop out Mirage the second he went to throw the spear, and thusly the one that got pierced wasn't a real one, so it looked like a real one, but she was actually fine? I'm assuming that's the thing. That's kind of cool. I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting some sort of regeneration thing, especially since her magic was supposedly not on offensive. But yeah, Mirage is pretty darn cool. Once again, I mean, it can be useful, but once again, on the lower end of magic. This isn't, as she says herself, it isn't very versatile. And notably, she gets seen through pretty easily because she runs into the one person in the group that could precisely take her out. Because, like, to be fair, an amped Nasians could probably bully this woman without her staff. Donnie could arguably lift and then wombo combo this woman without, well, I mean, maybe not Donnie. Donnie may get body bag. Who knows? Because he would probably pick wrong. And Percival could obviously just talisker this woman. But in terms of Anne, she just has the ability to just see through mirages. Like, I love how Anne just has the flattest face too. She's just like, and then in her sight range, it's interesting. I wonder if this is how Anne sees all things. So, like, if Gother were to ever try to cast an illusion on Anne, would the illusion not work? Unless it's something like Invasion, where it's really like her mind producing images. If like, do no physical illusions work on Anne, or is it a general sense of like anything that is not true cannot work on Anne? So like, Gother couldn't mind hacks her if he tried. I feel like that's a little bit too much. So I think she still can get mind hacks, but specifically has to be like in brain. Like something like Mirage won't work because she could still see the real one, who she very swiftly stabs, and I mean, she's may not be dead because she does speak like, "How did you know?" And Anne goes on to say that, "Too bad for you, my eyes can only see the truth," because that's just her ability. But I mean, Percival, you rock with this? Because I mean, maybe she's not dead. Because to be fair, the stab wound doesn't look that deep. But it is like, actually no, that's not even a poke to the heart. She stabbed the wrong side if she wanted to poke to the heart. So I mean, Anne took the dub. I respect that. But now, like, how are y'all going to beat Dornoch? And are you going to leave her alive? Because notably, Fittich is likely on his way. Like, he is likely sprinting there right now. He probably doesn't have the horse privileges. But in terms of, speaking of the horse, where is Sleipnir? I feel like Sleipnir should be an active part of the battle right now. I know he's just a legendary steed, but that man has 8 legs. But yeah, this was actually a pretty solid chapter. I do appreciate all that Anne does for the sake of like Percival and Nasians. I like that Donnie, even if he didn't want to at first, is willing to step up and take the lead whenever he can and whenever he's able to. And I do like that this whole, once again, like the whole mystery with Sin is being like further enveloped upon, encroached upon, grown upon both in narrative and out of narrative with all the hints and confusion we're getting. I love the callbacks to earlier fights, like the fight with Pelgard. It displays like a continuity within this series outside of, it's unfortunate, but I feel like I can't even call Pelgard like a major villain. Like Ironside would be the more major villain for our cast here. So I think that's really cool. We get callbacks to that. I like the introduction of new magics. I like seeing Anne's magic being used appropriately. I like seeing Sin, the tactician. Honestly, like he's playing Fire Emblem or something. Like he's using certain abilities and certain attack ranges to his benefits. Like, I don't know. This was just like a really fun, really cool chapter. This is a solid 10 out of 10. I don't know. I appreciate this. It was a really good chapter. But those are my thoughts. What do I think is going to happen next week? I think Dornock may be like, he's gonna get defeated. Either A, Sleipnir's gonna come in and assist his like rider, and or B, Finish is gonna show up and be like, wow, great job, you beat Fodder, now die. But that's it. I'm super excited for next week though. But those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please tell me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.